Hey guys, what is going on? It's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history in your aquariums. How is it going? Who have we got in here so far already? History in your aquarium. How is it going? Let's see. Let me mute that. Get this up. Switch this around. There we go. That's better. All right. So we got Dave's aquarium thoughts. We've got Fish Tropic. What's going on? And let's see here. Clay Wise, welcome. Wild and Wonderful West Virginia. That's a place I would love to collect fish and crayfish too. There's a lot of species there. From regular Virginia. Hello, also. Right on. H2O, good to see you. Donnie Wolf, what's up? Glad you can make it. Xanadu, what's going on? Biscotti Nunya, what's up? Everyone's at work today, it sounds like. Azure Avian 2. I like that. Has like Azure Blue, maybe. Misfits, what's up? Mr. What's in the Cooler, Fish Dreams. Let's see. Not your average, or your average fish keeper. Just got a pair of beta chinoides. I never know how to say that one. These ones. Right on. Let us know how those go. From Rotterdam. Well, welcome. I guess I don't know any Dutch, but I am Dutch by heritage. I've got a chunk of Dutch heritage. Let's see here. Alec the Nice says, I hear Mises shrimp is better than bloodworms as far as nutrition goes. Thoughts? Well, that's always hard. You know, I always hear people say things like, oh, frozen food is better than this food, or that food's better than this. And unless it's live, which does make a big difference, I feel like it just depends on what species you're feeding. So if it's a meat, you know, if it's a species that needs a ton of protein, like a puffer or something, or you know, a doveye, then maybe the Mises have a profile that has more, who knows, like vitamins and minerals, and it's more water based and fat and carbon and starch. You know, I don't know. I really don't know what's in either one of those off the top of my head, other than the protein part. But my comment would be that it really depends on what fish you're feeding. And so you can find the info of what they would be eating in the wild. And then I always just try to mimic that if I can. Carolyn, Kathy, hello, Jim, Jay Diaz, what's up? Michael Long, Richard McLaughlin, what's up? Southwest Florida, man, I'd like to be down there right now collecting fish and, you know, finding all the weird stuff in the fresh water. Matt, what's up? Welcome. So today I wanted to talk about, essentially, we have some major problems in the fish hobby right now. And when you look at the hobby's history in general, I got bored and doodled on myself, so just don't mind any of the drawings and so forth. Last night when I was hanging out with a friend, I was playing around to see if I wanted to do some tattoos. But essentially, yeah, we have some major issues, and there's a range of them. But I was kind of just curious what other people are thinking on the subject. And the main one, it's probably going to upset quite a few people. And so I was almost hesitant to even talk about the thing. Today, I do have a Dr. Pepper handy from yesterday. It's flat. I got it out of the fridge just so I'd have one while we stream. But I'm working with a Coca-Cola. I figured that would wake me up a little bit more caffeine wise today. But yeah, so I think there's some major issues that we have going on. Lady Diane, welcome. Glenn, welcome from New Zealand, right on. You went into lockdown again. Yeah, that seems to be happening a lot of places. We're not in lockdown here in Seattle, but we are facing a whole lot of regulations again, masks and all that stuff that they had backed off of. Now it's back in the saddle again. So that's a bummer. But the first thing I wanted to announce, in case you guys didn't see it in the community tab, is that Ivan, Mikolji, and I have started a nonprofit organization. And so we're really excited about that. The name of the nonprofit is the Green Earth Alliance, and you'll be able to find info on that soon at greenearthalliance.org. We secured that domain name, which is pretty exciting too. And basically, we want to take, he's got 13 terabytes of video and photos and, you know, information that he's compiled, notes from watching fish in the Orinoco all over Venezuela and the Orinoco Delta. And he has a corporation for his photography and art. You know, he sold it to people like the Discovery Channel or National Geographic for their specials and things like that. So yeah. Hey, Patrick. Also, guys, if my audio or video starts to crash on us or go downhill significantly, just please let me know. Just as I'm reading the comments. But in any case, so Ivan had that set aside, and that's kind of how he was handling it. But he also wanted to basically donate all these 20 years plus of archival work. And now, you know, now he's creating artwork. He's still doing more of collecting fish and documenting that. He's also into orchids and aquatic plants and, you know, the whole ecosystem of the Orinoco River in general. And so both he and I had been thinking of ways to try to connect the average hobbyist, or maybe even the more in-depth hobbyists, you know, maybe more of the folks like you and I, the folks who are watching right now. I mean, you guys are all people who watch videos about fish on YouTube. So that's probably a step above just people who own an aquarium. So it's maybe people like us that will make the difference. And just as there is an aquarium freshwater group, there's a saltwater or coral group, there's a reptiles, you know, geckos or pythons, whatever it may be. There's all these specialty niches that are into one thing or another in the animal and natural world. And we want to take the energy, the love, the passion that exists in these kind of niches, and we want to connect the passion and energy that scientists, biologists, ichthyologists, herpetologists, botanists, people who are doing the work on the ground. We're happy to support people in the United States and Europe and Asia that are funded already as a whole, but maybe they have a project that they want to work on, and we want to be able to help with that. But what we want to do is, both Ivan and I, with my artwork and Ivan's artwork and our nature themed stuff, we want to be able to use that, license that, and put that up in order to help fund a program. And basically the idea behind the nonprofit that we've set up right now is we want to feature various scientists or researchers or explorers, and we want to be able to help them out with whatever it is that they need to get their job done. Right now in the developing world especially, you've got people who have maybe, for instance, in Venezuela, where they can get an education for free, but the economy is in shambles at the moment. You've got people who are, you know, very, very informed, foremost experts in the world, for instance, on maybe a certain group of catfish or a certain plant group, whatever it may be, but they literally can't afford gas to go do their work out in the field. So there's some things as simple going on as literally they have to write a grant for it, and they're already using their own money. And, you know, it's just this labor of love, that the fact that they're even able to do the research and stuff. And, you know, the same thing goes on in places like Myanmar, where we've got the CPD and, you know, Celestial Pearl Danios and Sabua Splendid Rasboras, or Galaxy Rasboras, or the Emerald Rasbora, whatever you want to call it, the erythromicrons, all those fish that came out of Lake Inle in Myanmar, they weren't discovered until 2006, 7, and 8. Some of them 2010. The Inle Loach, the Inle Danio, some of the Gouramis and bettas that we've found since then. And so because of war, unfortunately, now we've got these incredible things we know somewhat about, these places we know somewhat about, but we can't get in there all the time. And yet there are people still doing the work. There are people still in the Central African Republic, in the Congo, in South Sudan, in the border of Bolivia, you know, on the border of the Amazon, where there's militia groups that will kill you for nothing other than being there. We have these incredible people doing work in these areas. And a lot of times, unfortunately, or I guess, I mean, it's just the way it is, but where war and problems have occurred, sometimes that protects that area very well, because nobody's going there to invest in industry. There are regions in Laos and Vietnam and Cambodia that were very heavily bombed during the Vietnam War. And, you know, these pockets of large mammals and reptiles and birds that had never been seen before were discovered after that. And sadly, due to napalm and Agent Orange and other defoliants that were sprayed, we also killed a whole lot of stuff that we didn't even know about. And Ivan's big pull and big statement that he always likes to make is, if you don't know something exists, how can you preserve it, or why would you care about it? You know, why would you care about taking care of it and doing the right thing? And so you kind of have these big existential issues that go on in the world, and those are minorly what I was going to talk about today as the big problems, quote unquote, facing our hobby. But that's a problem that the whole world's going to face. And right now, it's everything from coastlines moving inland to rainy cycles and temperatures changing. And I mean, the fact that there are dojo loaches that I found living here in Seattle, that is such, I mean, it's just one little piece of info, but there's all these things going on where you may never have expected in Germany, or for instance in Siberia even, which it's a little misleading because Siberia is a big area and there are spots that get pretty warm, and there are thermal hot springs and lakes and things fed by geothermal activity. But I mean, the dojo loaches are also there. And so, you know, these changes of just a few degrees can be the difference between a species being somewhere and a species not being somewhere. And so there's things like off the coast of Washington we never used to see, like the Humboldt squid. That was a rare occurrence. Every few years you get some way offshore, and you know, people knew of them, but they weren't common. Now every year pretty much we have, if you're a salmon fisherman in Washington, you know that we have the Humboldt squid, and they're like 5 to 6 feet long and nasty, biting, mean things that eat a lot of food, and they're coming all the way north past Washington. So these little differences make a big change, and not only in the natural cycle of things, but also in the unnatural cycle of things. It's not just Florida now who has to face tropical fish invasions. You know, plecos are in Texas, they're in California, New Mexico. They're starting, you know, snakeheads and other fish too. They're starting to get farther and farther up, you know, the Mississippi River and the tributaries of that. So, you know, there's all that stuff that climate will have an impact on. Now, I don't want to get into the idea of, just because I know there's people with different thoughts of, is it man caused, is it not? It doesn't matter. It's clearly occurring. Will it stop? Maybe, I don't know, but it's clearly occurring. You can't argue with the data points, or if you do, you're silly. But so there's these things facing our populations of fish too. I mean, if the zone of where, for instance, discus live, and discus, you know, they really like hot water. If the zone of where they are most comfortable living shifts north 200 miles, say, what does that do? I mean, there's not an Amazon river waiting for them in that specific spot, you know? There's an Orinoco. Are they going to be able to jump to the Orinoco through the tributaries and survive there? And maybe they will. Maybe it opens up new territory for some animals. But the thing is, even if it ended up being a good thing, that change when it initially occurs is hard. Change is always hard, and you're going to have these swings between stable, unstable, just bam, crashing populations. I mean, I just saw that over 80% of marine species that are fish that we harvest to eat are threatened or endangered now. The numbers are down over 70% since the 1970s, with, you know, tuna and basically large fish that we eat around the world. And so it's rather distressing in that sense. And, you know, at the same time that we have all these things going on, there is a lot of hope and a lot of stuff going on that will try to challenge this and try to fix this. So in any case, the nonprofit that we've set up, it's not going to be ready for doing work, doing lifting the weight, as it were, for a little while. We're still kind of working on, you know, our ethics. We want to be a really transparent nonprofit where you can see that if we have to hire an accountant, for instance, like 20% of the money went towards accounting and setting up an LLC and getting insurance for this or that, and, you know, so that we'll have those costs, so you'll know how much of every dollar goes to what, and so that it's a realistic thing. But we really do want to get rid of a lot of the big bureaucracy that gets involved with those nonprofits. And so we're starting small, and we kind of want to do a choose your own adventure with this Green Earth Alliance. Ivan and I, we want to basically put out, you know, when you first, like, the way it'll probably first start is you come to the website and there will be a menu of stories, kind of like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, except it'll be crowdsourcing for scientific research and grants that are relevant to freshwater fish for now, because that's the hobby Ivan and I both know, and that's the scientific sector of nature that we both have the most passion about and connections to. So that may feature, I mean, we've been talking to people, everyone from people trying to preserve goodyead species in Mexico, people in Central America trying to preserve cichlids, and a guy in Mexico, in Oaxaca, who's trying to preserve killifish. And some of it is as simple as the data or the taxonomy just needs to be finished, because a lot of times these fish that are threatened, they don't even exist on paper. You know, a lot of apistos, a lot of plecos, things like that, they don't even have a scientific Latin name yet for them. We call them, you know, A114, or like plecos. oftentimes they'll be in the hobby for 20 years before they get a name, because we have this backlog. And so what Ivan and I are hoping is that we can kind of build a platform and a space where people can use not just crowdsourcing for money, but also crowdsourcing for what can other scientists, what can grad students, what can your average hobbyist do that can get these things documented and taken care of. Because if you don't know it exists, if you can't quantify it or talk about its life cycle and what it needs, how can you ever protect it? And so that's the big goal in the end, is that we end up being kind of a Kickstarter, GoFundMe type thing for scientists, for research, for expeditions, for discovering new species and listing them. So that's kind of the idea behind the Green Earth Alliance. And also, if we need to put people together for, maybe you know how to build a web page and someone else knows how to do server-side data and someone else knows how to do translation. We may need someone to translate into Portuguese or something in Brazil. Then maybe we can, rather than having to pay, like most corporate groups, most universities and things tend to end up saying, okay, we need a translator. All right, well, that's going to be $100 an hour. So we'll get a headhunting firm and we'll tell them what we need. And so they'll put out a message on Craigslist or recruitment sites or whatever. And then half of the money just all of a sudden disappears into bureaucracy before it even gets worked with and the work gets done. And so if we could just say, hey, we need a Portuguese translator, here's a 50-page document on this new apisto that was found in Brazil, hopefully we can do that. And then also hopefully we can return the favor, not just in that people feel stewardship and ownership over the fact that they're having an impact and changing obviously the hobby, but the preservation and knowledge of species of the world. But also then we can incorporate more and more sections into that, like someone who's into orchids. Ivan is also into orchids and I'm into aquatic plants. And so as we build these sections of the nonprofit of the group, we hope to have overlap. So maybe somebody's already overcome the hurdle of, well, where do we get funding for this or that? Or maybe if we want to do an exhibition for the public, a charity dinner or a fundraiser, where we make artwork from artists in the community. Obviously, Ivan and I are artists, but there's so many talented artists out there, like Priscilla and other people who are on FishTube or in the hobby, and all the an anatomical and biological taxonomical illustrators. And let's get these species documented. Let's have them exist, and let's make sure that we know how many there are and where they are. And the other thing that I would love to still do is also set up, we want to empower indigenous groups and indigenous or native people, in the sense that even just native Brazilians, nationality wise as a whole, or native US citizens, it doesn't matter. We would like to empower the tribal groups that are still in the areas through things like Project Piaba does also. But beyond that, we even just want to encourage people to take stock of what's in their own backyard and get involved. And so we're going to work this niche that we understand, like Fish Dream says. And from there, we are going to hopefully build up a network, build, and people can also communicate over that. But, the other thing that I wanted to do is kind of a certified organic, just like, and that sometimes doesn't mean anything, I have to admit, but but fair trade coffee or certified humanely produced clothing, you know, no child labor involved, things like that. That is what we would like to also be able to have our nonprofits stand for and certify. We would like to have the resources to have someone on the ground, check out what's going on, see how many of those fish do exist. I mean, oftentimes Ivan is asked by the IUCN to be the guy who goes out into the forest and says, how many of these guppies even exist? Do you see any? What rivers are they in? And, you know, for 3 months, he treks around documenting every area where they are. And, you know, the answer sometimes is no, they're dead, they're gone. So when we're ready, I'll make the announcement, but we'll want to be sourcing, obviously, funding, but we're going to be trying to work with corporations, governments, and grants also. We're going to be an international nonprofit for sure. Ivan doesn't live in the US. But then we want to also connect people with all the local projects. So if your heart is in the place of, I want to fund angelfish breeding research in the wild, they're looking at how Ultim angelfish reproduce and how we can have better success in captivity so we don't have to harvest them from the wild. That, for instance, it would be nice to have, I want to throw $20 at that cause. And then in the end, you know, maybe that brings angelfish prices down and to the hobby, and you will know you had a part. And if someone has a large part in a certain niche project, or they want to pitch a niche project to us, so say you're a botanist, or even just maybe you're retired, maybe you're a student, but you got time, whatever it is, and you are fascinated by the impact that certain petrochemicals are having locally in, I don't know, Texas, outside of Waco, on the frogs in your ponds out there. Whatever it may be that gets your engine revving and gets you excited, we want to make those projects and things available and visible like a GoFundMe. And then from there, you start to make connections to other people. Yeah, let's see here. Aquarium Adventures. If someone wants to throw $20 somewhere right now, where should they be looking? Well, I can't tell you where to spend your money. I mean, there's other groups that are out there right now, but definitely when we launch the official, when we get the website all built and everything, we are official on paper. Legally, we exist now as a nonprofit. We're registered in Florida, and Ivan and his sister Yelka, who's very intelligent, funny, kind woman. Maybe I should have used those words in a different order. She's got a good sense of humor, and she's a kind woman. She's a smart woman, and she's an entrepreneur. She's a tech-minded person, and she's definitely a processes-minded person. And she helps Ivan with his business right now as it is since COVID happened. So we definitely want to get things rolling. And if you know somebody or some project, that's what you can do to help right now. Is if you know of a project like maybe it's Goodyear research, maybe it's Rift Lake cichlid research, or it's renaming the Pelvicochromis tinnitus taxonomy and straightening that out. Maybe it's figuring out what mixed Neocaridina shrimp that are in the hobby are, and trying to, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out what natural species went into creating Neocaridina, or you know, blue bolt shrimp, or blue dream shrimp. If Neocaridina, blue bolt would be caridina, but we don't even know that much sometimes. And so maybe somebody wants to do that. Maybe somebody just needs to pay for the DNA testing. And so that is, we want to see these projects. We want to see these ideas, but you have to have the ability to do the project. You know, it's not just I would like to see this done. We're trying to get a hold of people who don't need a ton of money, but they need either resources or they need to know the people who run the DNA. That's when we can say, hey, we are a nonprofit. You can write this off, and we can talk to a company that processes DNA and does DNA testing and say, instead of charging $2,000, why don't you do this as a tax deductible donation and do it as a grant or a gift to this great project that's trying to figure out X, Y, or Z. So that's kind of the role we want to play. We want to connect the dots. So that all being, let's see here. Yeah, hemichrome. Alishan is saying, Republic of Chromis has already been revised. Yeah, it has. I know that they sorted that out fairly recently. But I think there's more DNA work that they could do in finding upper falls versus lower falls, some of the variants like that. And also just things like, what are we going to do with like rock cribs and some of the other cribs, like on the, you know, on the Volta or on some of the other rivers that feed into some main rivers where you've got species of cribs that maybe they're different enough that they should have at least a collection point distinction. I don't know. It's hard to say. Another one is, you know, dams, restoring natural habitat in dams, getting rid of them when possible. So there's a ton of different projects that we could jump in on, and we're excited about all of that. But I'm hoping that some of those kind of existential problems, we start small by focusing on what we know, by focusing on freshwater fish, and we work out from there. And hopefully soon it can turn into things like land trusts and donating, you know, maybe someone wants to leave their estate. Maybe they have a farm and they want to leave their estate along a river to a salmon restoration group or something. All these kind of things we'd love to see one day. Patrick, he says, Alex, may I ask, why are the El Tigre Endlers cost so much and people only sell female only? I don't know. I didn't know that I've seen the males for sale all the time in Seattle. They only sell males in Seattle. That is they don't want you breeding them, and you have to find one that's similar. But if you can't find, if the one person who controls the strain or the line of a line bred fish or a wild type that's not going to be found anymore, that's not there when you go to the wild now, it's pretty powerful money wise to not give the females out, because you get what, a year to 4 years with the fish, and then you got to come and buy more. So that's what that's about. And it's unfortunate that happens, but it does. Let's see here. So I'm just trying to keep track of your guys' comments as I go through. But so that's the really exciting news that I wanted to announce as far as the nonprofit. That is some really big news, and I hope it addresses some of the biggest problems we have in the hobby, in the science, in the hobby, and in ecology, preservation, conservation in general. That, I mean, be great. And wouldn't it be cool if you donate a couple $100 and you know, you end up getting into an email correspondence with the person's project? You know, for instance, there's Olivier Alexander working in Peru, and say he's looking at stick catfish, twigs, whiptails, banjo catfish, the oddball farawallas and things like that, and he's classifying species, and they've got a new species, And you know, you see that he has a grant up on our Green Earth Alliance website that he's looking for funding to continue his research out there. Well, maybe you're the one who donates 100 or 200, 300, whatever it is. And that gets him, you know, the camping equipment or the generator they need at the research site, whatever it may be. It could be things that grants typically don't always cover. You know, there's grants that are just blank checks, and that's great when people can get those. But also we like the accountability, and then we like the update thing, the micro lending kind of model. But not lending. It's actually it's not a loan. It's a gift. It's a grant. And in return, we'd like to see what becomes of that. You know, maybe they figure out how to stop a new disease. Maybe it's someone doing research in Florida with the colmenares and how to stop that. Just like they figured out how to beat the Eleobiopsidae in Neocaridina shrimp that was just decimating the industry. So maybe early on, what we needed to do, Rachel O'Leary did this, and she actually came in and she said, here it is, I found it, you know, here's the sick shrimp, take the DNA of whatever's on it and let me know what it is. Well, it turns out that it's like an algae and I think a bacteria, an algae, and a little not nematode, but some sort of little parasite, all working together. That is so harmful. And they figured that out by the DNA, and then they figured out how they could attack it and kill it. Right there, you're saving thousands of dollars in the industry and stuff. But maybe that means that Rachel O'Leary or whoever funded that DNA test, they're in the running for naming the species, you know. And so we can also kind of auction off or whatever, you know, as rewards for helping out, getting a grant funded. It'll either be a special thanks or it'll be something named after you. I mean, there's even whole things we don't understand of maybe there's a new venom inside of a catfish, and someone you know, somebody is doing research in the lab, like Matt. Why am I spacing on his name right now? Who, any case, so say they discover some new chemical or new thing in an animal or in a plant that has potential. It's just pretty powerful to see that. So yeah, and to think that you would have a role in that or be noted as one of the research funders, backers, I think that would be cool. And for me, I'd like to see my dollar go to something like that and know, boom, that's where it went, rather than, as much as I do appreciate Project Piaba and stuff, I don't really know. I mean, they're starting to do more media, which is great, but then you got to pay, you know, editors, film editors. You got to pay for publicity. You got to pay for people to go around and speak, and you give them a salary to do that, which is fine. I mean, you have operational costs, and of course, our nonprofit will too as we get more people working on it. But when possible, let's use the people power that exists. You know, let's use the info that we can gather from you all as hobbyists and expert fish keepers, and maybe you know certain species really well. Maybe you don't have any degrees or anything, but that doesn't mean you can't be an expert. I think that this is a good step. Now, that's one way I wanted to address the major problems in the hobby. The other huge problem that is going on specifically in the captive fish hobby is the idea that, and it's really come out since COVID began, because some fish clubs, most fish clubs, weren't able to meet anymore. So no physical meetings, and some like the Seattle Club, I think Massey and I'm not sure who all else, but there's a few clubs that decided, okay, let's go online. Or like Corey at Aquarium Co-op, like his channel is having speakers. You know, if you're a member for, what is it, $4.99, $5.99, you can then watch once a month. They'll have fish club quality members, you know, people who would usually come and speak at a fish club. However, when I talk to a lot of the people, for instance, I know Downing. Sorry, guys. I was trying to remember the name of the guy, Matt, who discovered the venom in Corey's catfish. But it just so happens that some of the first speakers on Corey's group, Lawrence Kent, one of my good friends who I go collect fish with lately, and look up to a lot, you know, in the hobby and in the club. I've looked up to that guy and his explorations and travels. And then Matt, who came and gave a talk to our club about the venom that Corydoras have and the ability that Corys can poison themselves in a bag of water if you're not careful, kind of thing. But a lot of the work going on with that, a lot of those people, one, they're very busy because they're literally doing the research. So they don't always make the rounds in fish clubs. And when you start getting guests on a channel, it gets tricky because historically, as a club, most fish clubs would invite these speakers, whether you have, you know, you have people like Gary Lang or Karen Randall with Aquatic Sunken Gardens and her book, or whoever it may be, but they become these kind of experts. And especially before the internet, but even after the internet and until recently, you had these experts, or Gary Lang for rainbow fish. You had these people who, Ian Fuller for Laura Caraday and Corydora. And you had these people that were experts, but they would get paid, say, $1,000, their flight covered, room and board for a night or two into the city. And that was what they did. You know, they had a circuit, and granted, they're doing their research and that's their job, but they would kind of make the rounds. And that model, I don't know if it can exist anymore, because those people, and in my mind, rightfully so, they've done years and years of work to have an answer that then becomes common knowledge. So they may have spent 30 years observing something in the laboratory or in their aquariums where they're raising 500 Corydora Schultz, I don't know. And they're watching them, and, you know, they're looking for a mutation, or they're looking for one thing in specific to occur, or looking to isolate certain genes, whatever it may be. And then they come up with a talk. And then for maybe 5 years, they go to all the aquarium clubs in the country and they give this talk, this hour-long PowerPoint. Well, a lot of these people don't want that talk that they give online, because why would anybody join a club and go sit and see a talk? This is the logic they're using. If they can just put it on YouTube for free and it costs them nothing, there's no barrier to entry. And so that on its face, that's what's really hurting the hobby in some ways, in that YouTube is great in that when people get the right information out, it can be incredibly powerful, you know, and the right information changes. I mean, we learn new things, and that's science, but we replace it as we learn. And now, you know, I think Corey is brilliant for coming up with the idea of, let's do a monthly club online for people who maybe don't have a local fish club, or maybe you do, but maybe they're just not inviting lectures. Maybe you keep seeing the same guy who's been breeding cichlids for 50 years in your hometown, and he speaks at your club every year, and there's like 6 of the 12 months of the year the speakers are people in your club, and you've already kind of heard the spiel. Well, that model is just getting outdated. I mean, you guys expect, what would you do if I came on to YouTube and every 10th episode I did the same episode verbatim, topic wise? I mean, maybe I changed how I talked in between things. And you know, so in any case, what I'm saying is that YouTube, what you guys have come to expect now with this, with COVID, with the clubs being shut down or not able to meet, you guys come to expect from me, from Aquarium Club, from whoever it is that you watch, from those of us who try to be educational channels. We try to get the right information to you, do the research, and spend the time on that, and get the experts to tell you. I'm not the expert, but I can find them, and then we can package that and share that. And so when I'm trying to do that and have at least a speaker of the caliber that you would have at your aquarium group, I mean, whether it's Rachel O'Leary, whether it's Sean Pektek, or it's Lawrence Kent, or it's Gary Lang, whoever that you have on the show, once a month you have something like that going on, or you have another YouTuber on, you do a collaboration on their channel, whatever it may be. What is the, I mean, and people pay memberships and all that, and that's great. I mean, and then we get the ad revenue, that's great. But there's kind of become this competition between younger or YouTube, and a lot of times the scientific community, or even just the old time fish keepers. And thank you so much, 503 Aquatic. Shanna, I really appreciate it. We got the first super chat of the day, night, evening, afternoon, and I highly appreciate that $2.99 sticker. Great, great, great. Patty, I appreciate your sentiment as well. So the funny thing about what Corey's working on, which I think is great, the speakers coming on, is that YouTube, essentially, if you guys watch a high caliber YouTube channel, whatever that may mean to you, you've already come to expect to be getting the information of a high quality caliber, or from experts, and sometimes packaged in nice editing and you know, B-roll and all that stuff. And it's going to be new every month. You're not going to hear the same thing over and over. Now, there are plenty of YouTube channels where people just sit and they give you lists of 10 things over and over and over, or they give you discussions about filtration 30 times over. And some people want to talk about that. Some people need to learn that, and that's great too. But the online meetings, yes, exactly, Alishan, like you're saying, you can also meet with people all across the world, and you can make the connections that I've been talking about this entire episode about, the, like what Ivan and I are trying to do with the Green Earth Alliance. You know, we want to connect the links between people, connect the dead space, the dead air, as they say in radio or TV, between someone who's an expert in Nile perch and someone who's doing aquaculture with perch in Alaska, which is like, whoa, how are they living up there, you know? But then they can exchange ideas and information, and, oh, I got them to adapt to do this and survive this way. But then it actually becomes the YouTube channel or the fish club or wherever it is, because they become the go-between, the bridge, the link, the facilitation of that. And that's what we really want to be doing. And rather than doing it from a business point of view, which there's nothing wrong with that. I understand why that is the, hey, BJ, hey, Chubbs, what's going on? Good to see y'all. But I understand that, and money is a big motivator, obviously, and that's great. And I think it's so much better to have a company like Aquarium Co-op that gives back by doing those things than someone who doesn't do any education or reinvest at all into the community. I mean, that's frustrating to see. But Also, we wanted to do a nonprofit so that nobody's getting rich off of it, but the people who need it, the people who are working, whether or not they're getting paid, because they love it, because that section of the Amazon that they grew up in is home to them, and the fish there are important, and they want to get them documented before the area gets clear cut or logged, and they want to get species into the hands of collectors and breeders around the aquarium hobby all over the world, so that we have these little Noah's Arks of genetics, and so that these fish, like the species on the Xingu River, where they've built large dams, or on the Aswan dam project that dammed the Nile, these things where that have real implications and impacts other places than just right where something's going on. We want the hobbyists to be able to help too. So maybe the nonprofit, maybe it is you guys are the best German ram breeders there are, and maybe we discover a new species of instead of a Bolivian ram, maybe we find an Argentinian ram. I don't know, I'm making things up, but that's when we can then use these platforms to connect people. The real problem, though, is that this resistance, the resistance between that old guard, and it's not all old people or anything, but I do have to say there is a stereotype of a gray-haired, retired engineer who's named Chuck or Dave, and who has been in the fish club for 30 years, and kind of, you know, they kind of are on the board of the membership, or, you know, the board of trustees, or whatever you want to call it, however your club's organized. But I'm sure if you're in a local club, you've seen that, where there's kind of a group of people that are always the go-to people, and they steer the club, and they're full of wisdom and knowledge. And I mean, that is that you can't put a price on that. That is incredible and needed. But when they offer that once a month, and it's specifically kind of localized to your area, there is a limit versus the online thing. I think they should both coexist, in that I really enjoy going to a physical meeting and being able to talk with and shake the hand of, or chat with, or hug, for that matter, the person who's speaking about something that I care about deeply too, and learn from them. I love learning one-on-one or 1-on-50 in an auditorium, you know. But the barrier to entry is what we keep playing with. And I like that Corey's barrier to entry is low, and that he does have he shows a lot of what is also member only kind of stuff. He also shows, hey, Liquid Zoo only fence. I love that. New member, thank you so much. Speaking of memberships, if you do want to join this channel and help me do stuff like keep running the channel and trying to run the nonprofit that we're going to be working on, it's only $1.99 to start. You can give more if that happens to be okay for you financially right now, but no pressure. We just figured that $1.99, I figured that $1.99 was fair enough. And what I try to do with that is give you behind the scenes info of what's in the works, what's going on. Try to give you guys information if a company reaches out to me and says, hey, we're selling this new aqua soil, we want you to try it, and here's a coupon for your viewers. Well, you guys are going to be the ones who get it, you know, the members first. And so that's kind of yeah. Liquid Zoo canceled all your membership, forgot to redo me. Well, thank you so much for rejoining. I really do appreciate it. It makes a big difference. It adds up, like crowdsourcing. You know, got 25,000 people or so watching the channel nowadays, which is great. But it's really the core group of maybe 200 of you, 300 of you that are here all the time, that are here consistently, and that we know each other and are actually Holy cow, we got another just whale of a donation. I'll address this in 1 sec after. I wanted to thank so much Carol. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Very nice of you. I really appreciate it. And Rico Stan, I'm working on the hair to look like you. Alex stands for awesome. Live stream educates xylophones. Sure, yeah, that's what my name is. Is that an acronym for? I got nothing, he says. Yeah, well, thank you. You got more than nothing, sir. Always love your show and love what you've done in the time you've been in the hobby. You've gotten a lot accomplished. But dang, Alexander, again, instructions unclear. Decimal point goes where? Boy. 190. Yeah, okay. You're like a super forever member, Alexander. We got to talk again. Give me a call when you're free sometime. But that's very, very kind of you, and I appreciate it. You've done that now with the AC here, which has been invaluable. It's let me do so much. I mean, I've gotten new gear literally with the money. I mean, with the money that everyone's helped with, but you in particular with these few big ones. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm not forgetting it, and I'm thinking about you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. But as you are kind of one of the people who kicked this notion into gear, is what do I want to leave behind in the hobby? You know, what Fish Dreams? Welcome. We got another new member. Yeah, a lot cheaper than $199. We got a member, Fish Dreams. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like I said, Isabel, hello. You're going to sleep, but you wanted to tell me that you're still alive. Well, I appreciate that because I always love to see you. You know, you're one of the folks like Zen Ginger, like Ginger Graves, like Lori at Monster Fish Gal. So many of you, Muppet, all you folks that are here frequently and supportive, really just, I mean, for years. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys know that I know who you are and you're special to me. And I consider a lot of you friends. So, yeah, but that's the big problem in the hobby, is we've got this old guard that needs to kind of give up the protecting the information. And it's just like college and universities. They don't want to allow you to learn online for free. If Harvard starts letting everyone take the first 4 years of college for free online, and granted, it's not the same. You don't get the same one-on-one feedback. But when I was in college, I have to say, I took a lot of classes that I paid expensive money for to sit in an auditorium with 700 kids in the 101 classes. And I didn't talk to that teacher once. So you can't tell me that that same level of education could be delivered online for free. And so the guarding of this elite class of, oh, we're the educated, we're the non-educated, what, you know, working class, whatever, it needs to go away. We need to allow anybody who wants to learn to learn. And to me, I understand that we also need to value compensating those people who are putting in the years of work, who are putting in the research, who are going out into the forest and spending years out there. I mean, it's all fine and good. You know, Ivan was like, why don't you come down to Colombia, Venezuela? We'll go look around. Super easy, just fly in and we'll have it all like basically like hostels, take care of you. They actually feed you, they cook you, they got a whole meal spread. And I thought, you know, that's really cool. And then I thought about like, yeah, that's like $5 or $6 grand or something when all's said and done. One, I don't have that money, but two, is that where the money should go? Like, I'd rather fund that scientist down there. And yes, it will be a life goal of mine to get down there and to go to Southeast Asia, to go to many places. But right now, prioritize wise, that could be a team in Venezuela that Ivan knows the people right now who $6,000 US would fund 6 months in the woods, who knows, maybe that's 30 new species of freshwater fish. And to me, it's just really awesome. The people power, and also the fact that if you want to divide it, and I know some people don't like to say first, second, third world, or developing versus non-developing, West versus not West, or, you know, I mean, I don't know what you call it, because South America is still the West, geographically speaking, but they're not considered part of the Western world usually. Maybe Brazil would be, but you know, Ecuador or Bolivia, places like this, are considered developing or third world or second world. No one says second world countries. And our money that we spend on that difference between $1.99, these membership fees, these donations, when we crowdsource, if 20,000 people gave $1.99 each, I mean, that's $50,000, and it's nothing off our back. Yet that could, imagine what that would do in a nonprofit. And that's what I really am excited about, and that's what's cool going forward. And if some business people and other folks want to skim money off of that by sponsoring things and doing things and trying to be the face of that, I get it. But I just like the nonprofit realm of things. You know, as much as I think it's cool that like Seagrass wants to sponsor Project Piaba Fish, they're also getting $4.99 a fish. I don't know the breakdown of how much each fish gets all the way back down to the person who caught it. I hope the person who catch it gets a, you know, $1 US or something, you know, it'd be great. So let's see here. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this is exactly it, Patrick. So face-to-face is different, but since COVID happened, just like our fish clubs, just like our talks, you have people who are saying, all right, come to the doctor. You get to meet with the professional who knows how to take care of you, knows all the, yes, they have special skills and schooling that I definitely don't have. But then you get, you know, an RN or an LPN, which in some cases they're better than the doctor anyways, but I digress. So then you go online, you're on a phone call, and you're like, yeah, I got this thing on my back. You see it? You know, holding your phone up, doing it over Skype. And somehow we've adjusted to this, yet on your insurance, most of the time these things are ringing up $400 for the visit, you know? In some cases, I've seen people telling me that their bill actually said like, you know, a convenience fee for not coming into the clinic and for remote meetings. And so instead of a $250 doctor visit, and then maybe you pay a $40 copay or $20 copay or $70 copay. I don't know. It depends on your insurance in the US. But they're still getting paid that big bucks bank. Look at all the stuff they cut out. And so that one-on-one experience does matter to a lot of people, but I do wonder if it going away, if anybody would miss it after it was gone long enough, if our kids would, if the people who grew up never knowing better, never knowing that there wasn't an internet screen or a phone or a tablet in between the experts or your teachers or your doctors, is that one-on-one worth something? And I feel like in the YouTube space, I feel like I can offer that to you guys. You know, a lot of times members will message me or call me. I've taken lots of middle of the night phone calls or messages, and I always try to do that, and I will always try to do that as long as I have the channel and the time and the ability to help out with, you know, oh gosh, something went wrong, the fish are all gasping, and you know, whatever the issue may be. I know Ginger and I both have called each other being like, oh no, you'll never believe what happened. I had this leak and this started going wrong, and then this pump didn't work, and then this heater turned on. So I just saw your name scroll by, Ginger, so I'm picking on you. But the point being is that real relationship and that real connection does have a value. However, it is not the end all be all. And so I think we need to find a happy medium between the You got to pay X to play, and the same not boring, maybe a great lecture. Same lecture though gets taught to every club, 1,000 people at a time, and they get, you know, $500, $1,000. Maybe it's just their travel fees covered, but a lot of times they're getting good money. Sometimes even like few thousand, 5,000. Do you go to Aquashella or something? People have been paid up to like $10,000 to go speak, you know. But maybe these experts that go and do the circuit like that, maybe that time is over and they know it, and so that's why a lot of people are very hesitant to come online who are experts. Then there's the professors and things. Yes, we've had many professors in the fish club hobby circuit that will come and speak, but usually it's because they're into hobby breeding as well. If they're just focused in on their one species or their lifelong passion of guppy genetics, like David Resnick or something like that, then why would he go do lectures? The guy's published like 700 papers with his name affiliated to him, has all these grad students working on projects, and he's kind of coordinating that. And he's doing the actual science. He doesn't have time to go chat with clubs, but he may have time to do a call in on a show like mine, or he has time to check my YouTube videos, whatever it may be. And maybe like for Corey's aquarium club. But the interesting part to me is that what's brilliant about what Corey did too is he branded it as pay the $4.99 membership fee or $9.99 or whatever it may be. He put together a community, the forum, which is great, the aquarium freshwater forum, and through his aquarium co-op website. And also made it seem like you're getting now to be a member of a fish club. Well, Corey was providing those services and those talks and interviews with people like Gary Lang, who, you know, now would be probably considered a speaker grade guest, for 5 years for free. So the fact that he's kind of packaged it, I mean, I think that's fine. That's ingenious from a marketing standpoint. And for my channel, it makes me wonder, like, you know, I'm just going to keep chugging along and try to get you guys the best info I can, keep getting cool guests. I mean, people like Ivan, people like Rachel O'Leary. I mean, the last 6 months, we've just had so many great guests. And I think that we need to find that happy medium between this being about guarding knowledge and having a barrier to entry, even if that barrier is low. I just don't like withholding information. And that's why my members, you get extra information that may not be necessary to keeping your fish alive or anything, but it's for those who are curious. If you wanted to see what the mountain range was like where I was hiking, where I collected some fish in a video, or if you want to know the sources of where you can read the full diary of somebody who was on an expedition in the 1850s through the Amazon's jungle for the first time as a European botanist or explorer. Those are the perks that I'm trying to offer, is more access like that if you want to support and do a membership or whatnot. But so far, it's almost to me like the ad revenue and the super chats, which, yes, YouTube, you know, as much as we all complain, YouTube takes a third of everything, but that's still really cool that we have this ability, because before, you know, in your lifetime, in 1900, the average person saw one printed New York Times newspaper worth of information about the world news a year on average in the whole world. Now we see that by noon on average, between advertisements, radio, TV, iPads, iPhones, your cell phones, your Android, whatever, you know, whatever you're doing, we're bombarded by information. And we need to sort through the bad information, the dead air, and figure out what it is that we value. And T-Bone, thank you so much for the $5 sticker. I appreciate it, brother. I really do. I do, indubitably. But I think that these things that we're talking about are, I think this crossing of how we're going to deal with information, and do we want to pay people for it? Because there's people who love the hobby and the science and the fish and the things. There are a niche group of people who will do it no matter what. Just it is a compulsion. Like me. I mean, I would be doing this regardless of YouTube or whatever. I would be keeping fish. But the level to which it's documented, the level to which the information is shared and other people are brought along the journey, that's what differs, as well as the number of people who would just say, I can't make a living being an ichthyologist. You know, I want to have a house someday. I can't live off of 40 grand or whatever. You know, you did probably make more than that, but you get my point. It's a fine line between what's paying enough, what's paying too much, where are we losing money to bureaucracy or to middle people or to companies. And to that, oh my goodness, Alexander, wow, thank you so much. Another 103 says plussing so up so you get the full 199 in your pocket. Wow. You know, so what I was going to say about Alexander, though, is that he and I had this conversation on the phone. And I was really moved by when he asked me, you know, if I could support your channel and the cause of the things you believe in, the things you love doing, and the I guess ethics or the ethos, that's the word, of how the channel has been built and what it's about. What do you need to do? I mean, do you need I mean, would you like to start a clothing line? Do you want to start a fish store? Do you want to start a teaching center? You know, and it really made me think, unlike anybody has ever made me think about anything since I started this channel, which was, what if YouTube disappeared tomorrow? What would I want from it? And the answer is, I would like a legacy that continues to help people who are doing the good work, highlighting people who do that work and did the research, do the educating, that do the teaching. I want to elevate those stories. I want to make them interesting. To me, they're fascinating, but sometimes they can come off as dry to people, especially if they're not already in it. And in the field or in the hobby, you know, someone who's not already into fish isn't going to come watch a channel and a 20 or 30-minute long video on something dry about fish. But I said, you know, I think it would be a nonprofit. And Ivan and I had started talking already at this point. And just, I mean, wow. Thank you so much, Alexander, for that. It really does mean a lot. That donation, it helps out a lot with what I've got going on, and the gear. And you know, I've got an underwater camera plans too. And we've got those dojo loaches that are invasive right near me that I got to update y'all on. But yes, Samuel, Alex, as a scientist, I spoke to you about my survey on Facebook. I can tell you exactly how little money and how much effort is required to conduct the research. Painful. I totally get it. I've sat in archives building when I was a history major, and then also doing archaeology, sifting through bits of bone fragments and pottery shards, whatever it may be, for a year or two, 50, 60 hours a week. And then boom, you find the bone fragment that's a jawbone of, you know, a Neanderthal or something in a site that you thought was all human. And the world's information base changes just like that. But really cool. Really cool work gets done, but it's surrounded by years of agonizing background information, tireless, thankless work, honestly. So Samuel, I was going to post on our Facebook group a survey that he's doing for, was it your doctorate? Or I think that was what it was, doctorate research. in ichthyology, or that he needed some feedback from folks. So about aquarium keepers and things. So yeah. In any case, that was what I really wanted to talk about today, was this gap between the old guard and the old way of running the circuit, with maybe 100 people who spoke to clubs, and maybe each of them in a course of 30 years had 5 talks. Now there's exceptions. There's people that had 30 different talks, or they do a different talk each time. And that's, I mean, wow, more power to them. They were doing things way ahead of their time. But the people who have the same PowerPoint, the same pause for jokes and applause, while that worked well, and the research and time that goes behind that presentation can't be discounted. It's still so important. The pace at which y'all, me, you, all of us probably expect now new information, interesting stuff to come out and to stay interested and engaged is much quicker. I mean, as a YouTube channel rather than a club, each YouTube channel needs to do something different, and each one needs to be coming out with worthwhile information or entertainment. And that's a whole other debate for another day that I have on my list of things that are really facing the fish hobby, which is, do you want entertainment or education, or a little bit of both? And I think the answer should always be a little bit of both, probably. But to what degree do you hire producers, editors, this and that? And that's always the question with everything. Do you invest in how to make the presentation look and reel people in who go for that aesthetic? Or do you work on researching for an extra 40 hours and being able to keep the lights on, or maybe hiring a translator to get you a book and information that's not accessible in the US yet, and you know, or whatever it may be, who knows? Edutainment, yeah, exactly, Zen Ginger. But that is exactly the issue that we have to decide where the lines are and what we want to see. And that's what's so interesting about us as a community here. When you guys support the channel as members, when you support other channels, and when you guys share, like in Facebook groups, when people who are active in the Facebook group, but they don't have a channel, they're not getting paid, people like my mods, I wish I could pay everybody this, you know, or people like Mick or Alishan, people who know so much about, you know, like apistos, or they have a specialty in this or that or whatever. You all deserve, you know, $5 for the answer to every question. But I guess the world just doesn't work like that. But it could, if a corporation didn't have billions of dollars at the top, it could. And so the corporations, the companies, they do know that, they do see that, and they know that they can't, just like they can't take the wealth and everything, they can't take the information and hoard it. They can't take the specialists and hoard it. Liquid Zoo, OnlyFins, speak of fish abusers, not those who sell fish. Well, and also, so another thing I was going to talk about today, but we're going to wind down because I know other people have to stream tonight, like Bentley Pasco. I do have a Dr. Pepper from earlier. It's just very flat T-bone, and I had this to wake up. The Coca-Cola wakes me up more. I don't do coffee anymore. But so what I was saying though is that yes, heavily researched projects are best done as passion, or heavily researched videos are best done as passion projects, says Featherfins. And I would agree that you can see that a lot of times. If it just becomes I need to get this many views and this much money and it's a check, it can start feeling less sincere. You get the little tidbits and gems of just like, wow, how did they learn that, or who figured that out about a really in-depth topic. That is all because of passion. And that's where no amount of money being offered is gonna instill that level of attention to detail and memory recall. And I think you can, those people who have passion projects then deserve, you know, reimbursement after the fact, essentially. Yeah, and it's kind of just like think global, shop and act local. It's kind of one of those things. Like, do you want to support your local fish club? Do you want to support Petco, PetSmart, or do you want to support your local fish store? Do you want to support a big YouTube channel, or are there smaller ones doing some niche thing that's really important that you care about? I mean, find the things that you care about and make an influence on it. Or maybe you start the channel, you start the group. But I've felt inspired that I see problems, I see answers, and I see the potential in our community. I see what an awesome group of people we have here, and what incredible skill sets we have, from logistics to shipping and fulfillment and server-side data information to construction and on-the-ground surveying and plumbing and electrical. I mean, whatever it is that you do, we've got this crazy skill set because of this one passion, this one hobby that bonds us together. So let's crowdsource that. That's the idea behind Ivan, Mikolji, and I putting together this Green Earth Alliance thing. And I hope, rather than bumming you out with problems in the fish hobby, that this maybe invigorates some of you to think about, to let me know, to email me at alexanderjwilliamson@gmail.com. Let me know if there's a passion project. Maybe there's a local dam near you somewhere that needs to get ripped down so fish can return. Maybe it's not even running anymore. There's a lot of dams that they built in the 1920s, 1930s that are not functional anymore. They're making, maybe they make a reservoir, which is a nice lake for fishing and stuff. But the difference between that and maybe salmon returning and all the natural recreation that could return and things like that, it's pretty incredible how many things people have lined them up like dominoes, and all we need is to push that first one. And that's our hope, is that we can start pushing those first few dominoes together. So, you know, I'm going to leave edutainment that's lacking the education. So, you know, things like, what's the guy's name? I'm forgetting his name, but the fish, Catch 'em all fishing, who's like putting goldfish through beer bongs and piping and catching pacus and putting them in wading pools and I don't know, stuff like that. It's sad that that has 8 million views and interaction, and then you got a professor's channel that may be publishing their findings, but because there's a buzz in the background and there's no like girls in bikinis on a boat or, you know, explosion cuts or like slow pans and llama and, you know, whatever, some weird animal or a goat making a laughing noise, all cut into all that, you miss out on the populace. Well, what I like about our community here is we've built this on our passions and on information and on learning and teaching each other. And that's true with a lot of the fish tuber channels. So we've already cut through that. We've already got our good army of people that are willing to put in work and care and learn and teach and pay it forward. And so maybe it's for the best that we don't have that other 7,900,050 or whatever it is people that thought that was a better use of time than learning about something like the history of shipping angelfish in railroad cars in the 1890s. It's something boring I would talk about, right? To me, there's nothing boring about it. It's super fascinating, but you guys get the point. But I gotta go. my battery here, or I guess it's just the camera is just getting hot. But it started to give me a warning light. So I'm gonna wrap things up here, but I cannot thank you guys enough for doing what you do, being who you are. Take care of your fish, your critters, your plants, and of course, take care of the people around you. But beyond all of that, before all of that, take care of yourself, because if you don't do that, you can't do the other things. You won't be here to do the other things and to care for the other things. And we need that work done. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody here, all the members, super chatters, lurkers, my mods, you guys rock. And you know, I'll talk to you guys again live on Friday night, but then in the meantime, we should have a video or two coming out this week for you also, and also a back catalog of 780 videos now if you want to watch some nerdy stuff. Guppies on a train and angelfish being shipped from Philadelphia, New York, Ohio, Chicago, Columbus, Ohio specifically, in milk cans. I have an entire episode. If you go to my playlist, The Greatest Hits, The Secret History, or Connecting Your Aquarium and the World at Large, I have an entire episode about the innovations that allowed us to ship tropical fish in non-tropical conditions, pre-electricity even. I mean, it was the turn of the century, but on the train, they didn't really have, they weren't using anything electrical to get it there. So pretty interesting stuff to me. Touches on a lot of facets of history. But yeah, so the last thing that I'll say before I go is that, you know, the animals are threatened, the world is threatened, and so we need to keep engaged. Get engaged where you love it, where you have fun, where it gives back to you, whether that's looking at your aquarium or whatnot. But then take that next step to learn where those fish came from, what their habitat is like, and how we can save those things for the future. That's what I'm really saying. And stay engaged. That's more than most people do, and it is a lot. Even it's not about money. It might be about time. You know, it's about how much effort you can put in, and how much, you know, we can do this together as a crowd, as a community, and as a family. And we need more of that in the world in general, with from politics all the way down. So thank you guys. Have a good night. I'm out of here. And I think Bentley Pasco is up later tonight, if you're looking for something to watch. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. And thank you so much again, everybody, tonight for the super chats. Alexander, I can't thank you enough, buddy. Also for making me think about the nonprofit, the legacy of what this channel could do if I were gone tomorrow, what I'd want it to have accomplished or stand for. All right, guys, have a great night. Peace out. Be kind to one another and your critters. Bye.